No matter how you move, get it done. No matter how you move, get it done. No matter how you move, get it done. No matter how you move, get it done.
So The Promised Neverland Season 2 officially wraps up the entirety of the story of The Promised Neverland. There will no longer be any other seasons. It wrapped itself up. And yeah, I mean, The Promised Neverland Season 2, it had voice actors. It had art or digital paint. It had a staff. You know what I'm saying? It was trash. It was garbage. It was absolutely an abomination and a disrespect and injustice to source material everywhere. People for years and years and years have bagged on, have ridiculed, have dogged the Tokyo Ghoul anime adaptations, from Tokyo Ghoul to Tokyo Ghoul Route A to Tokyo Ghoul Re seasons 1 and 2. But I gotta say that hands down, as bad as some of those adaptations were, excluding the first one because I really have a soft spot for it, but Route A, whoa, and Re, especially the second half of Re, was just an abomination. And still, at the very least, they tried their best to give what they could with those adaptations, because The Promised Neverland was just disrespectful. Honestly, I said from episode 1, I immediately caught on, wait a minute, why are we doing 10 chapters in one episode? A lot of people didn't, understand what I was coming from. They said, oh, come on, FNAF, they just skipping out on the fluff, you know what I'm saying? Then it was around episode 3 or 4, we got to it, and Yugo was written out of the story. When we got to the confines of that base, he wasn't in there in the monitor, room where all the monitors were. People were like, oh, maybe he'll come in the next episode. Then we got to the point where they said that it was going to go anime original. It was around, I believe, episode 5 and on, if I'm not mistaken. No Yugo, no Lucas, no Goldie Pond, the Counts. Shit, we didn't even get the Queen. The final 2 episodes of The Promised Neverland Season 2 were so damn bad. Episodes 10 and 11, which, by the way, an 11-episode season with one of the episodes being a recap, disgusting as it is, but the final 2 episodes in particular were so bad, and they knew the backlash was going to be absolutely horrendous, that they took the writing credits off for both episodes. I reported on my Forever News segments at episode 10, they didn't do the writing credits for episode 11 as well, because they knew what was coming. They knew what they had done. This was just, it was terrible. It was terrible. If you've seen episode 11, they literally took whole story arcs. I am not kidding you, people. They took entire story arcs and represented them in still shot images. Like, there's this one image that people were hitting me up like, yo, FNEV, what did this mean? Why is there a dragon randomly with this demon? What is that? That is literally an entire story arc and one of the big premises of the entirety of The Promised Neverland, condensed down to a single picture. Like, that is literally how bad it is, that they took elements that are story arcs and put them into just slideshows. Because the ending of The Promised Neverland Season 2, the final episode, episode 11, was a PowerPoint presentation by like some amateur animators, is what it felt like at the very least. Like, the art and animation in these episodes, the last couple ones especially, you could tell that Cloverworks, which they're doing great stuff on, what is it, Wonder Egg Priority or something, like, they're doing it's a priority apparently, because they're doing a fantastic job with everything to do with those. But The Promised Neverland just got a really raw deal. Like, from my understanding, I want to say one of the big reasons why they did this was because the manga ended early and it wasn't as profitable because the manga ended. So they said, well, we already got this contract signed, we gotta animate it. So they basically shat this together and gave us this abomination. And then, like, the random importance of Phil, there was a character in there that originally had died in the manga that Phil had to say goodbye to, but he was fine and dandy in the anime when they showed Phil and the kids again. Mama, how it was like episode 4 or 5, they had showcased that, oh, she's on a warpath, she's gonna go after the kids, and instead they just showed random elements that were supposed to happen from the manga. She never went on a warpath against him. In fact, she just became a grandma and stood at the, the Gracefield farm and shit like that until they got there, and then she flipped. Like, they took pieces, very small pieces of the manga and just spread it out in there. It was like, no, we don't want to adapt the manga faithfully. Oh no, why would we want to do that? But we're still gonna put little pieces here and there for whatever freaking reason of just like stupidity. And yo, this is crazy, right? Because I even have a video on here that I made several months back, sometime last year, that I was like, yo, people had an issue with the ending of The Promised Neverland. Towards the end, the last arc of Promised Neverland, the last couple arcs of Promised Neverland, people said the manga went downhill, they were dissatisfied with it, they didn't like like the ending, but I can 100% say that the ending of the Promised Neverland manga, the last, I don't even know, 100 chapters, however long that it took that people really started to dislike it, still absolutely shits on, and that is an understatement. There's not words right now that I could think of that just describe how much better the manga is than the anime, and that's that the manga had a bad taste in his mouth, or left a bad taste in people's mouths, because it was just like, ugh, because of what they did. Like, this was just horrendous. And, you know, it is what it is. I'm gonna spoil some things. I'm sorry. Mama in the anime survives. She's fine. She goes on to play guitar and go on walks with Phil. Like, what the fuck? Let's not forget, of course, like I said, they left out characters, tons of characters. Like, they show the queen, which the queen has fights and all sorts of shit in the manga. She was condensed down to a single shot of, hey, here's the queen. Some of the, what was it, the conversations that was had, Mujika's mans, the demon that was with her, that he said at one given point early on in this season, like, oh yeah, I can't wait to eat humans again, the new batch or something, never addressed again. Norman just stood in his shrunken form. We never got that badass time skip look that he was supposed to have. And then the way they changed things up, that apparently Emma had to stay behind because she was gonna do things and change things while she sent Phil and them to the other side. And then they put this random importance of Phil saying, Emma, you better make sure you come back or it's gonna be an issue. And then like years pass by and he's like, yo, that's that one bitch, what's her name? Yo, the bitch that, yeah, yo, what's good, bro? Like that's how the Promised Neverland ended, with yo, what's good? Like, Peter Ratri kind of held the same fate from the manga, so there's that. Although, to be honest with you, I thought he was a bitch-made motherfucker in the manga, so to see him just slash himself to death in the anime, I was like, oh, so bitch made it in manga, bitch made it in the anime, bitch made it for life, you know, that's just the life of Peter Ratri, and a certified bitch. I just don't understand why. Like, okay, I get it from a business standpoint. It was like, yo, let's cut our losses, let's just animate this shit and get it out the way. But the fact that they were using Kaiushidai, which, let's start looking at this, people. When studios start using the creators' names and attaching it, we gotta start treading lightly with this one, because they're trying to use this name for a particular reason. Now, when you go back and they're like, oh, you know, Tokyo Ghoul, Sui Ishida is gonna be involved with Rude, and then we see that they shred all of his ideas and said, fuck you, thanks for letting us use your name. We're putting this piece of shit out there. That was bad. Kaiushidai, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe some of the ideas that was presented from Kaiushidai was used, but as a whole, this was a mess. This was bad. Like, the shots where Mama is there with the gun and shit look like fan animation to a certain degree. The lack of just story, and then the story all over the place. I hope somewhere down the road, 20 years from now, 15 years from now, maybe even a decade from now, somewhere around there, we could get a reboot of this, a revamp, a Promised Neverland Brotherhood of sorts that actually faithfully adapts the manga, gives us the characters. Maybe they could, you know, bring back the story or some shit, do a spin-off of characters that we didn't get to see, or maybe before they escaped from the farm, some shit there, and actually bring back and redo this from the ground up. Get far the fuck away from Cloverworks that clearly didn't respect this project enough, because yeah, it deserved so much better. The Promised Neverland, I honestly tell you right now, 100% watch season 1 of the anime. It's still good. I prefer the manga, to be honest with you, even of that, but you can watch season 1 of the anime and go read the manga. I want to say it's like probably chapter 36, 38, somewhere around there is where the manga starts off and goes into season 2 and shit like that. Just read the manga. Honestly, if you want to just read the manga as a whole, don't even bother with the anime, because don't get me wrong, again, season 1's good and shit like that, but the manga it's a great experience, and even though it goes downhill itself, it still was leaps and bounds better than what the hell we were given with the Promised Neverland season 2, just taking the story and shredding it, and taking little pieces of what was shred and saying, we'll use this right here, throw this shit right here, yo, that Phil motherfucker, put that motherfucker right there. Disgrace, embarrassing, horrible. Honestly, I don't know what more to say. I ranted once. I'll tell you guys again, stay far the fuck away from the Promised Neverland season 2. Even anime only. My 14-year-old niece watched that shit, and she was kind of mildly enjoying the series up until a certain point. Then she saw the final ending. She was like, yo, wow, that was not what I expected. That was bad. So even a young kid can understand that this was terrible. This was, why is Phil so fucking important for? Very curious what you guys think. If you've been following the Promised Neverland, how did you feel about season 2 of the anime? What did you think went wrong? Were there points that you liked? What was your whole take on the situation of how it was handled and the ending, them skipping out on literally the fundamental idea of it, the promised Neverland? There was a promise, and they didn't even dive into the whole premise of the show of the promise. And yeah, final thoughts and opinions on this. To be honest with you, I don't plan on revisiting the Promised Neverland anime for a single second. Moving forward from this, I want to forget this, honestly. I wish, you know, the Men in Black, how they had those mind erasing shits? I wish they could just come right here right now and blast that shit in front of me to kind of forget the last, I don't know what, 3 months or so of Promised Neverland episodes, because yeah, dumpster fire, garbage. Skip out on it. Either watch season 1 and read the manga, or just straight up read the manga. Fuck that shit, like doo-doo. But that's all I have for this one. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you liked anything I had to say or enjoyed the video, drop me a like. I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you want more from me, make sure to subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram. Hit that bell to get all notifications. And if you want to follow any of my other social media, links are in the description below. I'm ForneverWorld, and as always, people, have an awesome day. And remember the golden rule. Fuck the Promised Neverland Season 2. Have an awesome day.
So just go to